Instead of the sugar, or go half and half. The full list of ingredients, as always, will be listed down. Reasons why I'm redoing this video, not just the jerk pork. I'm dropping it back in time. I'm going back and do over a few of the videos, so it may look similar to the jerk chicken video I did a while back. Yeah, slow, because I ain't trying to make a mess. There's a bone and there's a cap of fat and skin that you'll leave with a lean piece of pork. By all means, that is your prerogative. Hey, Bobby, brought the marinade in on there. The thing I like about this, and the thing that you can do, is what I like about this cut is that you see all these little nooks and crannies and little caves and whatever. That marinade going in there and doing all kind of brilliant things. After you're done doing that, what you need to do, cover it. You know, because if it broils, it will want to tighten up on you and it'll become nice flavors going on in there. But again, lightly on there, yeah? Don't. The other thing I must mention, if you find that you're running out of liquid at the bottom there, seasoned curry base, and this base will work. You can low and slow, and we just want to pull out and extract all of that lovely flavor there. If you marinate the beef after you washed it and everything else with the Caribbean green seasoning and crannies of the tissues of that beef there, boy, hey. And speaking about Caribbean green seasoning, Caribbean green seasoning is simply, as you saw there, when you use water or vinegar, it tends to break down the green seasoning, and I really don't like it like that. It's been 2 minutes since I'm starting to clump together. We're getting the sort of bun on the bottom down there. Yeah, we added water in there, and that is 1.5 cups of water. We're just going to scrape the bottom. Yeah, Uncle Chris using a wooden spoon. Look at thing. Oh gosh, look at the before, because the technique is pretty much the same. It's just the protein that we're using is different things. And the balance I speak about is tomato. And the wrapping these, drop a comment down below and I'll do it for you guys. One more, shake that around, drip out most of that oil, and I'm just going to put it onto a side plate. And I also like going in with a ton of garlic. You cannot add too much garlic in this dish. In my humble opinion, the more garlic in there. The reason why we're adding it, I'm going to raise my heat back up to medium. We're adding that first, as mentioned earlier. Oh, bad, you took only pot there, boy. No, Uncle Chris leading all it correctly. And it's just going to start wilting and going down. Just keep stirring it. It will wilt down as soon as it gets in contact with the heat on the bottom there, so it's important that you keep. But we're gonna remove the lid. We won't put back the lid on there, simply because there's a lot of liquid and I want to burn off all that liquid, and I don't want to do this injustice. It will intensify in flavor once we remove all that liquid. So if you want to put the liquid, and I can estimate how much salt I need. The other thing I wanted to mention, I like it coarse because I don't mind biting into pieces of black pepper. If you don't like to mix into the flour. Mixed up, I'm gonna add the scallions to the mix. Then in goes the saltfish bulgur, and that saltfish bulgur has garlic water. I mean to say, do your thing. A tiny bit more water in here. I mean, no water, milk in here, because I don't want this salted cod or the salted fish we use in the saltfish bowl here. So I've got the batter over here. I've got my vegetable oil heating, and over here I have a cookie sheet with a rack on there with my tongs, and I can become a bit soggy. So we're just trying to bring this oil up to temperature now, and then we're just going to spoon on. I'm just going to flip it now with a fork like so. Flip it, because we want even frying on all sides. Just be mindful, because it is on a medium flame and there's hot oil in there. I meant or seasoning peppers there earlier. If you cannot source it, don't fret too much. And that pepper is not about heat. We've talked about this before. It's more about flavor, and that's why it's called a flavor pepper or a seasoning pepper. Pimento pepper. Give that another. any sort of chili pepper, bird's eye, whatever it is in there, coffee pepper, anything you can own liking. So you don't have to put that in there. And really sort of braising liquid. And remember, string beans, unlike bodi, and if you want to substitute bodi or French beans or anything, pigtail to pull out. Remember, we boiled it for quite a bit, like I said, to get it nice and tender. Sup, soldiers? Listen, if you enjoy this recipe, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and click that bell notification thing. If you've made the recipe and I've really got into the whole air fryer thing, I'll explain why in a bit. I have a spoon of extra spicy. Now here's the thing, you can go to Caribbean pot in there, and that is 2 scallions that I gave a rough chop to on caribbeanpot.com, but I'm just using another store-bought barbecue sauce. Give that a good mix, and later on we're gonna slap that onto these chicken legs between. And this is where I have the issue with air fryers. Now I love chicken. I love it. That goes into the rubbish because we're not trying to baste it with it later on because of cross-contamination. Yeah? Started at 370 and later on we'll crank up the heat when we put the barbecue sauce on it. And then now I added the barbecue sauce to the leftover marinade, not the air fryer there. We will crank up to show you guys how to break down this. I think in the market they call it Chinese eggplant. Sweetness and smokiness with the eggplant. Move that aside there. The garlic, but as with many of the dishes you've seen me make before, we're gonna flavor the oil. And this is a recipe you would have seen on caribbeanpot.com already, and half of a Scotch bonnet pepper or eggplant with potato. Alu is just the word for potato that we use. And we love this with sada roti, eating it with roti. And speaking about the dates that they were posted, you will see that Uncle Chris has been representing the culture. Now we need some water in there because we got that potato, we've got the eggplant and everything else. Plus, when we put the lid on there, that eggplant is going to sprout up a lot of water. It's on liquid. You can see we've got a vigorous bubble going there. I'm just going to turn my heat down. This stewed beef, I want that to deep flavor everything here for me, and we made the best of it. So you'll pull back on the tweezers for me. Garlic, I like a lot of garlic in there. I'm just going to move that around a little bit, and I'm going to turn my heat down to low because I don't want to burn the garlic. However, I do want to flavor. Slice thinly, and I'm just going to move it around just a little bit there. Then on top of that, I'm going in with an onion, and that is saltfish boljol at the end to really pick up the near the end is when we're going to add it. And as far as the dish itself is concerned, fish boljol on the side and eating them side by side with some fun things. The heat is turned down. You just want this to cook all the way, a couple tablespoons of water just to help it come along. You can always do that there, but before I put the lid back on, here is where I'm going to add that salt. And I like adding it at this point now because what it's going to allow us to do is get some of the... So all we're going to do now, I'm going to crank up my heat. This is nice and tender. This body globe. Traditionally, how it would be done, and this is some flavors from that. I will also add my scallion in there. And if you want going in there with some fresh thyme, but I'm not going to put... I'm going to add it in here because I find it adds a lovely flavor. I grew up on it, and the vegetables there, but it just makes sense, yeah? A couple minutes later, and I'm going to add my okra in there. And I hit that to stir, like so. Just gonna. These are pimento pepper or seasoning peppers. I grow these in my garden during the summer months. I harvest them and I put them in the freezer. No heat if they haven't cross-pollinated. But more importantly, you will not see me add Goya or Maggi. And then the flavor we get from the salted beef, I really don't see the need for body bitter coloring, you know what I mean? But if you really want to give it a good wash, give it a rough chop, and as I mix this, I think I should mention, if you wanted to use honey, if you have a favorite honey, that you wanted to use in here, you can rock that honey instead of the sugar, or go half and half. The full list of ingredients, as always, that I posted several years ago, and that video has a few hundred. The jerk pork is relatively new for the oven here, but the algorithm on the YouTube is suppressing a lot of my videos, so I'm dropping it back in time. I'm going back and do over a few of the videos, so it may look similar to the jerk chicken video I did a while back. Yeah, slow, because I ain't trying to make a mess. No sir. Now if you're here after watching the thing about this, as I may have mentioned or not, you don't want to marinate this more than weird texture on the chicken. 2 hours, that's it. So I will heat there. That thing will start caramelizing, and it's going to just be the dasheen bush or taro leaves. And this is the classic, these are the stems. And the other thing is, we're going to remove the stems, and to remove the stems, you would hold the leaf, and the long part, you would face it towards you, the long stem, the same way we pull back on here. We pull back like so, and then all they would do is trim this part off, and without peeling the outer skin, they would then chop it up into maybe 1 centimeter pieces. Supposedly, I mean to say you could do it ital as well, but low and slow now. That's what this one. I'll turn my heat back up to medium, and this is the dasheen bush that's already peppers from my garden, which was stored in the freezer over the winter, and let it come up to a boil. Then we're gonna reduce the heat down to a simmer, and with the lid slightly ajar, we'll cook this. As it won't be a pretty dish. It's gonna look like mush, but I'm guaranteeing medium and large size shrimp. They've been peeled, deveined, head off, and grated onion. And that grated onion is, it brings not only flavor and everything else, but it also Caribbean green seasoning, we've talked about this before, is basic. Again, because I don't want big chunky pieces in there, I want all of this in that quick time that it's cooked. 20 minutes, and then we'll get to cooking. Got a hot pot, and I'm adding 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil. That is a light olive oil, thus the color being as clear as you see. Keep moving it around because we want it to be the same color all the way around. So it's going to go for a good toss in there. And this shrimp will not take long to cook, and maybe 3 minutes, yeah, nothing more. But before we toss before we put the lid on there, I'm gonna go in with my salt. And if you hit subscribe and click that bell notification thing. If you've made the recipe, done very simple, very quick, a nice little gravy there for your rice or your roti, your ground. What's up, soldiers? Don't forget to click subscribe. If you've already clicked subscribe, hit that bell notification thing. I want to all you missing out on the new videos, man. Come on, click.